The highway reflectors blinked in sequence, guiding me like something alive was signaling from beneath the road. At first I thought it was coincidence. Highway reflectors sometimes catch headlights strangely, angles shifting as the road bends, little amber eyes winking along the lane markers. If you stare too long, your brain starts to stitch patterns into randomness. But this wasn't random. The first reflector blinked, then the next one, then the next. Each flash came a half-second apart, traveling down the center line like a pulse running through the asphalt. My headlights washed over them as I drove, but the timing didn't match my movement. The lights flickered before I reached them, one after another, like runway lights guiding a plane down through fog. The road was empty. No other headlights in either direction. No houses. No gas stations. Just 2 lanes of blacktop cutting through miles of forested hills. My tires hummed softly. The dashboard clock read 2:11 a.m. I eased my foot off the accelerator. The reflectors continued blinking. 1, 2, 3. A perfect rhythm marching away into the darkness. Probably electrical, I muttered to myself. Maybe some new smart road system. Embedded sensors. Automated reflectors responding to approaching vehicles. Japan loved its infrastructure experiments. But something about the timing felt wrong. They weren't reacting to me. They were leading me. The blinking line stretched ahead, vanishing into a curve where the highway dipped between 2 forested slopes. I watched the lights as I drove. Each reflector lit just before my headlights reached it. Not after. Before. Like anticipation. The forest pressed close to the road. The trees were tall and thin, their branches black against a starless sky. My headlights only illuminated a few trunks before the darkness swallowed the rest. The blinking continued. Steady. Precise. Intentional. I checked the rearview mirror. Behind me, the reflectors were dark. Not blinking, just dull yellow dots fading into shadow. Only the ones ahead of me flashed. A slow unease crept into my chest. The road curved gently left, then right. The blinking pattern adjusted perfectly to the bends, the pulse always staying centered in my lane, always just far enough ahead to draw my eyes forward. I tried to ignore it, focused on the road, on the quiet hum of the tires, on the faint vibration of the steering wheel. But the rhythm burrowed into my mind. Blink, 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 felt like breathing, like a heartbeat. After a while, I noticed something else. The road surface was changing. At first it was subtle, tiny variations in texture beneath the tires. Asphalt sometimes patches differently after repairs, so I dismissed it. But the hum of the tires shifted gradually. The smooth drone became a low, uneven vibration, then a faint, hollow sound, like driving over something thin. I glanced down. The asphalt looked normal in the headlights, but the sound persisted. Hollow. Underneath, the blinking reflectors sped up slightly, just enough that I noticed. Blink, 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 blink. The sequence moved faster down the lane, guiding, encouraging. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. Okay, I said quietly. That's enough. I eased onto the brake. The car slowed from 60 to 50. The reflectors ahead paused. The blinking sequence faltered. Then it adjusted. The timing changed slower now, matching my reduced speed. My stomach dropped. The pattern had recalculated. I braked harder. 40. 35. The reflectors slowed with me, still blinking ahead, still leading. I checked the rearview mirror again. Behind me, the highway looked wrong. Not dramatically wrong, just subtly. The lane lines seemed farther apart than before. The curve of the road behind didn't match the one I remembered taking. And the reflectors there were completely dark. I told myself it was perspective, headlight glare, fatigue. But when I looked forward again, the blinking line had begun to drift slightly to the right. The centerline reflectors weren't centered anymore. They were guiding me toward the shoulder. The shoulder itself looked strange. The gravel strip was narrower than normal. And beyond it, the forest floor dipped downward in a shallow slope. I slowed to 20. The blinking continued. reflector after reflector igniting in a smooth sequence. Except now they were pulling me toward the edge of the road. I nudged the steering wheel left. The reflectors reacted. The blinking pattern stuttered, then restarted closer to the middle again, correcting me, guiding me back. My chest felt tight. "Not happening," I whispered. I pressed the brake until the car rolled to a stop. The engine idled softly. The blinking stopped. All the reflectors went dark. For a moment the highway looked completely ordinary again. Silent. Still. The forest rustled faintly in the wind. I waited. 30 seconds. Nothing happened. I exhaled and rubbed my eyes. "See," I said to the empty car. "Just tired." I shifted into reverse. The moment the car began to roll backward, the reflectors behind me lit up. Not blinking, glowing. All of them at once. A solid amber line stretching back down the highway. But they weren't guiding. They were blocking. The glow intensified as I reversed, the lights brightening until the lane behind looked like a wall of molten glass. I stopped again. The glow dimmed. When I shifted into drive, the reflectors ahead began blinking again. Blink, blink, blink. Faster now. More urgent. The sequence ran down the road toward a bend I hadn't noticed before. The curve was sharper than the others. Beyond it, the highway disappeared completely into darkness. Something deep in my gut whispered the obvious. It wanted me to keep going. I sat there with my hands on the wheel. The blinking accelerated again. Blink, blink, blink. Like a pulse racing. Impatient. Reluctant curiosity crept into my fear. Where could it possibly lead? Another mile? A maintenance station? A tunnel? The road surface beneath the tires vibrated faintly again. That hollow sound returned. As if the asphalt wasn't resting on solid ground anymore. But something thinner. Something stretched. I slowly lifted my foot off the brake. The car crept forward. The reflectors brightened with each blink, racing ahead toward the curve. The forest seemed quieter now. Too quiet. No insects. No wind. Just the low hum of the engine. I followed the blinking line around the bend. The road beyond it ended. Not abruptly. Not with a barrier or cliff. It simply faded. The asphalt stretched another 100 meters before dissolving into darkness where the headlights couldn't reach. And the reflectors kept blinking straight toward it. My headlights illuminated something else too. The centerline reflectors weren't embedded in asphalt anymore. They were floating, suspended slightly above a thin sheet of cracked pavement. And beneath the cracks, movement, something vast shifted below the road. A slow, rolling motion, like a giant creature breathing under a blanket. The hollow sound from earlier suddenly made sense. The road wasn't built on Earth. It was resting on something alive. The blinking line pulsed faster, urgent, calling me forward, toward the thinning asphalt, toward the moving darkness beneath. And then I understood. The reflectors weren't trying to lure me. They were trying to guide me safely across. The blinking pattern marked the only stable points, the only places where the creature beneath wasn't pushing upward. I watched as a section of road to the left bulged slowly, the asphalt cracking like dry mud. Another section on the right sagged inward, forming a dark hollow. But the blinking reflectors stayed perfectly aligned across a narrow path. A safe route. A bridge. I realized with a sick chill how long it had been guiding me. Miles. Across this thing's back. Without the reflectors, I would have drifted into the wrong lane long ago. Into the weak spots. Into the parts where the asphalt would collapse. The blinking slowed. Patient now. Waiting. I looked at the path ahead. Just a few more reflectors. Then solid highway again beyond the creature's massive shape. At least, it looked solid. But I couldn't shake one final thought. If the reflectors were guiding drivers safely across, why had the ones behind me turned solid and blocked the road? And why, as I rolled forward over the final blinking marker, did the reflectors ahead of me suddenly go dark? In the silence that followed, the asphalt beneath the car sagged slightly, and something enormous shifted underneath. My headlights caught a road sign that changed only when I looked away from it. The first time, I blamed the fog. A pale gray mist had settled over the highway sometime after midnight, thick enough to swallow the trees along the roadside but thin enough that my headlights pushed through it in long, wavering tunnels. The beam reflected off moisture in the air, making every surface shimmer faintly, especially the reflective signs. So when the yellow warning sign ahead seemed to flicker from deer crossing to something else, I assumed it was just the fog bending the light. I drove past it. The engine hummed steadily beneath me. The tires whispered over asphalt. No other cars passed in either direction. Just miles of empty road cutting through dark hills. After a minute, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The sign behind me looked wrong. The reflective surface caught my headlights even at that distance. For a split second, the letters looked like they said something longer. Not deer crossing. Something with more words. I blinked and the sign shrank into the fog. Great, I muttered, seeing things now. It had been a long drive. I'd left the city hours ago, trying to make it to the coast before morning. The GPS signal had dropped somewhere in the hills, leaving me with nothing but a thin blue highway and a half tank of gas. The road itself looked ordinary enough. 2 lanes, occasional reflectors, a faded white line drifting through darkness. But the fog muffled everything. Even the forest seemed silent. No wind, no insects, just the steady mechanical rhythm of the car. 10 minutes later, another sign appeared. This one was green, one of those distance markers with white reflective lettering. My headlights illuminated it slowly as I approached. Riverdale, 18 miles. I looked directly at it as I passed. Nothing unusual, but in the side mirror the letters seemed different. Longer again. Curiosity prickled in my chest. I slowed the car. 20 miles an hour. The sign was still visible behind me, floating pale in the fog. I kept my eyes on it through the mirror. The text read clearly now. Riverdale, 18 miles. I looked away, just for a second, then back. The letters had changed. Not drastically, but enough that my brain took a moment to catch up. Riverdale, 28 miles. I frowned. No. I stared at it harder. The reflective surface shimmered faintly in the mist. Riverdale, 28 miles. I looked down at the dashboard. 2 seconds. Then back. Riverdale, 41 miles. My stomach tightened. The fog thickened slightly as I slowed to a crawl. The sign shrank behind me as I rolled forward. I considered turning around. But curiosity, sharp and irrational, held me in place. Okay, I said quietly. Let's test this. I stopped the car. The engine idled softly. Through the rearview mirror, the sign glowed in the fog. Riverdale, 41 miles. I stared at it. Nothing changed. The letters stayed perfectly still. I reached up and flipped the interior dome light on. Then off again. The brief glare forced my eyes away from the mirror. When I looked back, the sign read, Riverdale, 62 miles. A cold prickle ran up my spine. I turned the car around. The tires crunched softly on gravel as I maneuvered across the empty highway. Now the sign stood ahead of me again, bright in the headlights. Riverdale, 18 miles. Exactly like before. I stared straight at it. The letters stayed fixed. I blinked. Still the same. I leaned forward in my seat, keeping my eyes locked on it as the car rolled slowly closer. 10 feet away. 5, 3. The reflective paint shimmered with tiny droplets of fog. Nothing changed. I passed the sign, then looked in the side mirror. The text had changed again. You missed the turn. My chest tightened. I looked away quickly. Back again. You missed the turn. My heart was beating faster now. Not funny, I whispered. The fog outside the car seemed thicker suddenly, swallowing the road behind me. I accelerated slightly, eager to put distance between myself and the sign. The engine's hum deepened. The road curved gently through dark hills. A new sign appeared ahead, white this time, a rectangular information marker. My headlights slid across its reflective surface. I forced myself to keep looking directly at it. Rest area, 2 miles. Ordinary. Harmless. I drove toward it slowly, eyes fixed. The letters didn't move, didn't flicker, didn't change. But the moment I checked the speedometer, the sign said something else. I looked back up so fast my neck popped. You were supposed to stop. The air inside the car felt colder. The fog outside pressed against the windows like breath. I kept driving. Another mile passed. The road began to feel longer than it should. The hills didn't change. The forest didn't thin. And no matter how far I drove, the same faint glow appeared ahead. Another sign, then another. Each time, the message changed only when I looked away. At first, they were simple warnings. Curve ahead, then wrong way, then turn back. Each time I tried to watch closely. Each time the words changed only in the instant I blinked, or glanced at the road, or checked the mirror. Eventually the messages stopped pretending to be highway signs. The next one read, "You remember now." I stared at it. The letters didn't move. My mind felt strangely heavy, like something just out of reach. A memory scratching at the inside of my skull. I drove past, looked away, looked back. The sign now read, "The night you left." My hands tightened on the steering wheel. The road hummed beneath the tires. Fog swallowed the trees. Something cold settled in my stomach. Because I did remember. Not clearly, but enough. The argument, the late drive, the rain, the curve in the road, the headlights coming too fast around the bend. I pressed harder on the gas. The engine whined. The fog thickened. Another sign appeared ahead. Green again, larger than the others. An exit marker. I forced myself not to look away this time. The reflective letters glowed bright in my headlights. Exit 7, coastal route. I kept staring. Nothing changed. I passed it, and when I glanced at the mirror, the text had shifted. Exit 7, where you left her. My breath caught. The fog outside the car seemed to ripple faintly. The road stretched endlessly forward. I realized something then. I had already passed exit 7 hours ago. At least, I thought I had. But the next sign ahead confirmed it. Another exit marker. My headlights lit it slowly. I forced my eyes to stay on the letters. They read, "Exit 7 to 1 mile." My pulse pounded in my ears. I looked down at the steering wheel, then back up. The sign now read, "Exit 7 to 0 miles." The road ahead split suddenly. A narrow ramp curved into the fog. I didn't remember seeing it before. I slowed. The car drifted onto the exit without me fully deciding to turn. The ramp was shorter than it should have been. Within seconds, another sign appeared. White, rectangular, standing alone at the end of the road. I stared directly at it as the car rolled closer. The letters were blank, just reflective metal. I stopped the car. The engine idled softly. I waited. The fog drifted around the headlights. My eyes burned from staring. Finally, I looked down at the dashboard clock. 2:11 a.m. When I looked back up, the sign had words. Only 3. And the moment I read them, I understood why none of the others had changed while I was looking. Because this one didn't need to. It said exactly what it always had. Accident site.